Coordinator for the AFL-CIO. To my right is my counterpart, Brian Tanner, who's our South Central Wisconsin political coordinator. Brian, if you want to kind of give the lay of the land of your region.
All right. A lot of these problems have left many families, maybe even yours, struggling to make ends meet. And so families are maintaining their standards of living by doing a number of different things. One is they're taking on more jobs. Some are taking on extra shifts, working nights, working mornings. They're also working more hours. A lot of folks are looking for overtime or trying to max out 24 hours in a day for working out there. And the time of the one-person household income is gone. We're sending more family members to work. If you have teenagers or kids, we're talking 2, 3, and 4-person household incomes. So we're sending more family members to work. Now, does any of that resonate with folks here? Yeah? Begin by understanding the forces that are undermining the living standards of workers and the policies that we need to build a strong economy. Now, pundits and policymakers have been telling us for years that wage stagnation is caused by technology changes and that workers need more education. We keep hearing that. We know better. All of us here, we know better. The real cause of wage stagnation is a massive shift in bargaining power away from workers towards employers. And this has occurred over the last 30 years. And you'll see a number of slides to back this up here. This increased power of employers has allowed them to outsource work, deny wage increases, and walk away from their obligations to provide health care and retirement security. 2023 and today, the pattern is very different. First, the growth of family incomes is much slower than the earlier period. And second, the richest 20% grows much faster than the other 80% out there. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Consider also that between 1979 and 2001, the incomes of the top 0.1%, these are families making $1.7 million a year, increased 181%. And we're going to take this one step forward here. We're going to look at the top 0.01%. Now, these are families making about $6 million a year. Put that in perspective, there are only about 30,000 people in the entire United States who qualify for that income bracket total. This is how much their income rose. 500,000. Again, these are people already making $6 million a year. Well, here's one sentence to put that whole thing in perspective for you. The average CEO earns more on the first day of the calendar year than the average worker will make that entire year. So on January 1st of 2008, the average CEO made more on that one day than all of us here in the room will make this entire year. That's how broken the cycle is. Build workers' power, restore the American dream here. Now let's get into what we call the corporate. Again, things don't have to be this way. You've fought for and secured a lot of things over the years for working families. So let's take a look at a couple of the different slides here. First, globalization and free trade. Free trade often leads to unfair trade deals with limited or no protection for workers. Manufacturing workers understand this as a threat to their jobs, and they're right. Since 1998, we've lost 3.4 million manufacturing jobs. We talk about small government. Well, privatization is just as serious a threat to public sector workers as globalization is to manufacturing workers. And tax cuts for the wealthy, which some are trying to make permanent out there, have deprived working people what we really need most. Good jobs, good schools, a strong social security system, and affordable quality health care. We've got economic stability at the bottom, which promotes slow growth. At the top, we have labor market flexibility, which is best described as giving employers maximum control over the workforce without interference from unions or governments. Now, all of these policies erode minimum wage and other labor standards, fail to enforce workers' rights to organize, and strip workers of needed social protections, such as health care and retirement security. With that, I'll let Steve go into government. We want good government. Instead of economic stability that promotes slow growth, we want full employment. And instead of labor market flexibility, we want workers' rights for a living wage, freedom to form unions, and social protections. Now, what you see up here is the basis of our economic policy work with elected leaders, policymakers, and the public at large. It's also the core content that we do for an expanded program for our activists, for our members, for our leaders, so that we can engage confidently in discussions with anybody for political office, for city council, county board, up to president. This is what we want to talk about out there. So we can achieve the policies of the working families agenda, but putting all the pieces of our work together, organize and bargain collectively. The machinists out are forming committees, organizing committees to explore shops in the area in terms of organizing drives out there. We need to do more of that. We need to talk to our friends or neighbors out there who may work in a non-union shop about the potential out there. We need to talk about all the great things that we enjoy as union members. We also need to elect pro-worker candidates. Again, from the very lowest local level, from city council and school board up to president. We need more worker-friendly politicians. At the same time, we've got to hold them accountable here. We can't just let them get away. We have to remind them why we put them in office and what issues are important to us. We touched on this, changing the rules and demanding corporate accountability. Handouts for slides there. We've got more information on these issues here. We've got to talk with folks. We have to get engaged in this war of ideas because we don't have the money that big business does in terms of spreading Wisconsin's attacks out. We just can't compete there. So what you can do is you can have Steve or myself or somebody else come to your local meeting and give this presentation. Again, this presentation is a tool for you to use to help fire people up, to reach a little bit deeper into your rank and file membership so that they can get involved and be future leaders out there. So it's a tool for you all to get more people involved or come to your meetings out there. All right, and the last thing, be prepared for it. Ooh. Someone, it may be me or Steve or somebody else out there, is going to ask you to volunteer for Labor 2008. Before you start running through all the excuses in your head as to, like, whoa, wait a second, I got way too much stuff going on here. I want you to think of this number. You remember the number?
168.
168. Some of you have already heard this before. You're probably going, well, what does that number mean? Well, now you will know what it means, at least in this regards, is it's how many hours are in any given week. You've got 168. I'm going to ask for 3 of those hours. Give me 3 of those hours, and I'll leave you with 165 to work, to play, to eat, to sleep, to do whatever you want. But give me 3 hours, because that 3 hours can make a huge difference. Because what we don't want to happen is that on November 5th, we wake up with a cruddy president wondering what more we could have done to put somebody else in office. And it goes for April 2nd, too. We cannot afford to go through 8 years of what we just went through. We got our teeth kicked in. One of the most hostile labor relations boards ever. So we can't do that, which is why on February 29th, yes? Last day of February,
Yes.
We're making this call. So plan it out. Don't take that vacation the first weekend of November, but plan some time. And also, we need to ask folks about this, which we'll get into.